Okay. Oh shoot. Okay, 3 Here we go. What's up, everybody? What's up? Look at what we have in
All right.
look who we have in the house.
Well, hey there, fuckers.
Yeah, there you go. Time to
Yes.
stand.
I like it.
Mr. Jack. All right, Mr. Jack. Tell us all about yourself, man. A little bit about yourself. Sorry.
Basically, I'm a recovering leftist. I worked the front line through COVID. Before that, I hated Donald Trump. I couldn't stand conservatives. I thought everybody on the right was psychotic. And then working the front line through COVID made me realize how much we were being lied to, forced me to start researching everything. And at the end of that, I'm on the polar opposite side of what I began with.
Wow.
That's
Welcome to
about
the
Yeah.
it.
revolution, brother.
Yep.
Yeah. Shit.
Hell yeah.
Happy to have you here.
Glad to
Wow.
be here.
Yeah, man. Dude. That's great. Yeah, that's awesome, man. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Yeah, thank you for showing up. All right. So higher learning, guys. That's what we're gonna be discussing. These college campuses. I mean, it's old news for everybody because it's like 3 weeks old, but it's not, but still, we got to report on it. So, all right. So I wanted to talk a little. We wanted to talk a little bit about that. So, all right, Jack, you want to lead the way, sir?
Sure. I mean, I'm kind of conflicted with it all. I mean, it seems like a bunch of idiots, but basically it's a bunch of kids who have been programmed since they were in kindergarten to behave exactly the way they are. And they feel like they're the revolution. They don't realize that if you're marching in lockstep with mainstream media, Hollywood, and all the big organizations, you're not a part of the revolution, you're a part of the problem. So hopefully we can discuss some things that will open some eyes to where exactly they got their beliefs from and why they feel like they're the resistance even though they're not.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Well, I mean, too. You go to college to like learn and to become it. And well, in my eyes, the way I think of it is like college is for like independent free thinkers. You know what I'm saying? That go out and try to change the world. You know what I mean? So and
Used to be. I mean,
higher learning.
there was a there was a time when the education system was set up so people could actually learn and progress through their life's journey. But again, around the mid 90s, all of that changed when the World Core curriculum was created by Robert Mueller, and then it passed down through to the Common Core state standard, which is Common Core education. At that point, education went from being about learning and expanding your knowledge to making you into the perfect global citizen. So it's no longer about education. It's actually literally indoctrination, which is said all the time now, but I don't think people understand like how true that actually is.
Hmm.
Hmm. Yo, welcome, Charlie. Welcome. Well, I mean, it. I mean, to me now it seems like it's a fish in a barrel, and then all you got to do is just throw all you got to do is just throw food in it, and then all the fish will attack it. So that I
Hmm.
mean, that I'm just drawing that analogy. I mean that's what it sounds like to me.
Hmm.
Yeah, well, it's been the perfect storm of different variables. Even if you go back to, let's see, it's probably around 2002, 2003, the UN started recognizing the importance of propaganda, mainstream media, and the different things we could do. They started then trying to make it legal to spread propaganda on the American people, and it didn't work, didn't work, didn't work. 2010 got shot down, 2011 got shot down. Then at the end of 2012, Obama snuck the Smith Modernization Act of 2012 into an NDA, which effectively made propagandizing the American people legal. Since
Hmm.
then, they have taken full advantage of that and done everything they could to slowly indoctrinate people through every means they have.
Uh, you brought up earlier. Uh, Matter of fact, you sent me something by uh, by Robert Mueller. You care to um, um, elaborate on that?
Yeah, so essentially, Robert Mueller was the Assistant Secretary General for the UN for a long time, and he was, in his mind, a revolutionary, a visionary, somebody who fully understood that humans are not capable of leading themselves to where they need to be for the planet to move forward, that we worry too much about ourselves and our own little family units and our own little communities, and we need to start thinking bigger. We are now at a cosmic revolution to where the world, the earth isn't the limits of our reach. We now have to worry about the cosmic future as well as the planetary future. Which is where you get a lot of the climate activist stuff, a lot of the climate religion. You get so many things that came from this movement. In 1982, he wrote a book called The New Genesis, and throughout that book, his basic point is humanity as a whole needs to realize that we have to stop wasting so much time on all these different religions and all these different ideas and all these different thoughts, and we have to start working as a collective. We have to realize that God was the Alpha, the God of the Old Testament, the God. Different. I'm not a super religious person, but I know
Hmm.
different religions have different beliefs. Those gods need to go away. They were the beginning. They were necessary. He says his words, characters like Jesus Christ or Muhammad, were all important stepping stones, but they were nothing more than that. They're fictional characters, and we need to move beyond them and realize that man is the omega. We are the end. We are the gods. And once humanity realizes that we are the gods and it's in our control to make sure the planet is taken care of and to make sure humanity moves forward, then as a society, as a civilization, a global civilization, we can come together. From that thought process, and again, you can go back to Karl Marx. Robert Mueller wasn't a Marxist, but Karl Marx was a part of the same occult that we're talking about here, to where we are a people above religion if we can just move beyond it. Which, again, the United States is founded on Judeo Christian beliefs. It's an idea of
Right.
a constitution, a founding document. It's why they have to dissolve all this stuff. They have to make the average person. It's why our generation knows more people who will say they're pagan or they're not very religious, or we have such a weak religious structure within millennials and forward because we've been taught that since kindergarten. We've been taught this common core mindset of you must move beyond the old gods and into the world of the new gods, which is us. That's you. It's me. We are the gods. And anybody who doesn't believe that is basically just a knuckle dragging Neanderthal who needs to get with the times and realize we have to act as a collective. And we all seen how that worked through COVID. We all Anybody who was paying attention realized the problem with that, and the reason the United States is a union of 50 individual states is the same reason the world is nearly 200 countries, because if you all march in lockstep, as soon as you make one mistake, it's a massive mistake everywhere. But that's their ultimate goal. They want to establish a system to where there's just a governing body over the entire world, and when they say jump, we say how high because they know what's best for us.
Wow.
100%.
Yeah.
Sadly, they don't know us, and we're not
Exactly.
going to do it.
Well, see,
Yeah.
and it's the exact same problem whenever I get in TikTok lives or debates on Facebook or anywhere else, and I talk to communist, Marxist, anybody who has the collective mindset, even as far as fascists go. Communism is just fascism for kids. I am 100% anti-authoritarianism. I don't give a shit which side or which ideology it goes with. When I talk to the communists, I always ask them the same question: what do you do with people like me? Well, what do you mean? Somebody who refuses to play in your collectivist bullshit. I am the United States was founded on the principles of rugged individualism, which is I do me, you do you. As long as we're not hurting anybody else, we leave each other the hell alone.
Right.
So, what do you do in your collectivist world with somebody like me who refuses to play your game? Usually, you'll just get a snicker or you'll get a smirk or you'll get well, once you see how good it is, you'll want to play along too. And if you stick your guns and you say, no, no, I understand the overarching idea you have here. I'm saying I 100% oppose it, and I will never play ball with it. What do you do with somebody like me? Then, if they're honest with you, that's when you'll get things like the Gulag Archipelago from Solzhenitsyn, where he's explaining exactly what happens to people like us. That's the phase of all revolutions where they start rounding people up and committing mass genocide because you'll either play with their terms or you won't be around to stand in their way.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Wow.
It's why the idea of the United States and America is as important as it is. That we are the last bastion of true liberalism, of true individuality. We are the ones that are standing in the way from this taking effect to everyone.
Yeah,
Yes,
I agree.
sir.
Yep. Wow, man, you got so fire in you, man.
Went
Talking.
deep.
Yeah. Woo. Damn.
Yeah, you gotta watch me. You gotta watch me off ramble, man. I've got 3 million ideas bouncing around at all times.
We got all night. You can do it as much as you want to. That's why we got you here.
Oh yeah, no
Hell
doubt.
yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah, and to be
Like I
honest,
said,
go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry, Jack. Go ahead.
no, no, go ahead, go ahead.
All right, guys. Audience, just to let you know, we get kicked off of YouTube. We're on Rumble as well. So, the link this time is in the dang comment section. So click on that link and it'll direct you to us. So
Yeah,
on
YouTube's
Rumble.
hard on us. They were hard on me anyway.
Oh
Uh,
no,
yeah,
they're hard on me too, man. Because yeah, they just
Whew.
took down one of my videos again.
Oh man, jeez.
I didn't think about it being YouTube. They're definitely going to want me to stay away from certain topics then, which is
Oh yeah, dude.
insanity. How can we how how can you grow as a civilization, as a people, as a community at all? How can you grow if a group of people that claim to be up here now decide what you are or are not allowed to talk about? If I'm wrong, if I'm ignorant, if I'm misinformed, or if I'm spreading misinformation, the best way to defeat any of those is with more free speech. You
Yep.
counter it. Cut this video, point to a spot to where I'm wrong at, make your own content and say, no, no, this dude's full of shit and here's why. That's how
Yep.
you defeat that. When you just ban it with no explanation, the only thing you do is you create more curiosity on the subject, and then you force people into the deepest, darkest depths of the internet where the real psychopaths hang out and real problems start getting created.
100%.
Yep.
100%.
Yeah. And we're gonna touch on this real quick. I mean, actually, I think you just summarized the whole "Today I Have a Dream" deal by Robert Mueller, right? I think that's
And
what
like I
the whole
said,
summary.
in
Sorry.
1994 he wrote a letter that was titled 2000 thoughts and ideas or 2000 dreams. It's labeled different things,
Right
but
here.
essentially it's 2000 thoughts and ideas for the year 2000.
Hmm.
And he started in 1994 and he planned it so he would end just in time for it to start in the year 2000. And I highly encourage everyone to look up that list, start reading through it. The one you've got pulled up there is the
Hmm.
summarized version, his favorite ones. I think there's 500 or so of the ideas in there that he goes over. The
Hmm.
full list you can also find on robertmueller.org. But I mean, everything you're experiencing now, every person who feels like they're having the alphabet community shoved down your throat, every
Hmm.
person who feels like your flag is under attack, your anthem's under attack, every person who feels like your religion's under attack, being a straight white male, being a straight individual, period, being
Hmm.
male, period. Anybody who feels like any of that stuff is under attack, I highly encourage you to look into this guy who created the Common Core education system that has beat this ideology in kids' heads since the early 90s.
Wow. Dang. Well, here I'm just gonna read it. I'm just gonna go ahead and read a snippet, guys. It says idea 773. Business is not interested in population control. They are interested in growing numbers of consumers and new markets. But the white Western world should be actively interested for within a few decades, their children and children's children will be minimum in the world close to disappearance. Wow.
It's eugenics.
Yeah.
Literally,
Mm-hmm.
anytime there is an intentional theory for the evolution of mankind, it's eugenics. We've been down this path before. We've seen the Margaret Sangers and the different eugenicists of our times who think they understand which people deserve to live, which people deserve to not live, which people deserve to be weeded out. We've seen how this turns out. Just because you worked at the UN and you think you have an IQ of 142 and you think that makes you special, that doesn't give you the right to decide which people can go, which religions can go, what can stay. And it's what we're seeing. It's eugenics.
And
They
there's
have the mouth.
no, go ahead.
I
Go ahead,
say
bud.
they have the Malthusian thought process of there's too many people on the earth. There was a time, just like again Karl Marx, and I'll tie these two in together a lot. Again, Mueller was not a Marxist. I'm not saying he was, but they both come from the same cult mindset of they are above God. But just like Marx believed, when we were basically using rough tools, he believed that societies evolved with the usage of tools. And once the Industrial Revolution happened, that's what led us into capitalism. And then he knew there would be another stage that would lead us beyond capitalism. And Robert Mueller falls right in line with the exact same stuff. He knew there was going to be an advancement that would connect us all and allow he says communism and capitalism has failed and we must move on to a new theory entirely. But it's the internet. Like what they're talking about, what they're hinging all of their stuff on is the internet being that uniting tool that connects all corners of the globe and allows this globalist utopia to come into existence.
So, Jack, would you say that this Robert Mueller, whatever his name is, and everybody who that you're speaking of right now, followed the Georgia Guidestones?
The same mindset, yeah, yes, that same Malthusian. What they believed was, in the beginning of time, it wasn't about quality; it was about quantity.
Mm-hmm.
Because the labor we needed, the work we needed to move forward, didn't take a brain surgeon; it took rough labor.
Mm-hmm.
So originally, we needed a bunch of people to get what we needed done. But thanks to modern technologies, we don't need quantity as much as we need quality now. So now they're at the point of, like the Georgia Guidestones alluded to, cutting down the global population. We don't need as many people. We just need to find the best ones and keep them around so they can worry about the earth without all the other useless mouth breeders polluting and littering and taking up our space and our food supplies. And yeah, it's essentially the same thought process that led to the Georgia Guidestones.
Yep. Yep. Every time I hear you speak of it, I that's where my mind goes directly to is the Georgia Guidestones. Controlled
Yeah.
eugenics is what you alluded to basically, and taking down a race of people, whether they're black, white, Mexican,
Yep.
Asian, it doesn't matter. If they are of a certain belief system, they're going to take them down because they don't fall in line, as you were saying, like you, myself, Josh, and anybody else who's
Well,
watching this, and everybody else who has been on this same path as us for the last 5 years, even longer. Um, they have every goal to take us down because we don't fit in, and we are the biggest problem to them.
see,
So
and I have another cynical thought process on it too. Maybe, which I believe we are the targets as well, but maybe we're not. If you had the Malthusian mindset, if you had the little funny mustache fuckers thought process, if you were
Mm-hmm.
thinking in that regard, and you really were anti-gay, and you really were anti all these categories, they have done a phenomenal job of making these people put their hands up and say, "I'm right here." And that's
Mm-hmm.
scary in the reverse too.
Yeah, absolutely.
mm, yeah, wow, dude, and I mean, I just caught a little bit of what you guys were saying, was talking about, but I mean, this is probably another reason why AI is coming in the picture too.
Mm-hmm.
Is to replace
Absolutely.
us. You know, I mean,
It's
in
it's
my
the
opinion.
rape and pillage of
Well,
the free thinking world, is what
There you
is.
go.
It's a new saying that I've come up with: the rape and pillage of the free thinking world.
There you
You
go.
and I, Josh, we are going to be pillared. We are going to be pillaged. We are going to be raped of everything that belongs to us. It's the rape and pillage of the free thinking world.
yep. And another a good thing to think about is again through the lockdown phase of our life, and I'll leave it vague for YouTube, but during that phase of our lives, think about this. We were all, not all of us, I was an essential worker, so I was out doing it, but a large portion of the population was forced to sit in their house with a
Mm-hmm.
device in their hands. Now,
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that irritates me about a lot of conservatives is a lot of conservatives think they are smarter than our government. And that is a horrible mistake to make. You are not.
Mm-hmm.
We can understand what they're doing and we can have a smidgen of an idea of what's going on, but we are not smarter than our government. We're not. They have an endless supply of money, an endless supply of technology, an endless supply of the most intelligent humans to ever walk the face of the earth working for them. We're not smarter than them. We can see what's going on and we can work together to try to oppose that, but they are ahead of us, whether we know it or not. When we feel like we're ahead of them, we're actually walking into the two steps ahead they set up for us. During the lockdowns, during the stuff that was going on, we were all on social media. They watched us. They watched us as they imposed lockdowns, and they watched how much of that shit we would take. They watched as they started forcing mask mandates, and they watched how much of that we would take. They put us through all these different trials and tribulations to see how far they could go before we snapped. The lessons they learned from that, they've taken all of that data, 2, 3 years worth of endless amounts of data about the human psyche, and they now have that generated and powered by AI technology to see exactly where they can push us, how they can push us, what they can and can't get by with. And I promise you, right now they're going back in their holes a little bit. They're going to take another 5 to 10 years to process it all and figure it all out. But as soon as our children are a little bit older, we're a little too old to be fighting it. This will reemerge, and this time it will be hardcore with all the information it needs.
100%. 100% correctly. Um, I didn't fall for any of it. From the start of COVID to the end of
Nope.
it, there's still variants. They still talk about it, but the fact is, I didn't fall for any of it, and I didn't fall in line for any of it. I didn't wear a mask. If now, I will say this. I will say this, and this is probably an antisocial thing, but I was okay with the 6 foot distancing because I've been in the line at the grocery store and elbowed the shit out of somebody reaching for my wallet. Okay, um,
Yep.
that's irritating. But so the 6 foot distancing, I was okay with. It didn't really bother me. If somebody came close to me and they wanted to have a conversation and they were within 2 feet of me, I welcomed it. I was not afraid because when it first started, it was all coronavirus. Anybody who knows anything knows that coronavirus is the everyday cold. It's the seasonal flu. So I wasn't worried
Yeah.
about it. But you're 100% correct. Here in a couple of years, once everybody has forgotten about what's going on now, and that's the dangerous part, is Trump will win in 2024. I believe that in my heart. And after 4 years of Trump doing the right thing for this country, everybody's going to forget about all of the events of 2020 and beyond that. And so everybody's going to once again let their guard down to open up for everything that you were speaking of, Jack.
Mhm.
Everything that you were
Yep.
speaking of is going to hit us tenfold
Yep.
because they're going to continue to study the information that they got out of that 2 years with COVID. And it's the next time it happens, it's going to be the ugliest thing, especially because of the future generation, the people who are in college, the people who are protesting a war that they have no clue about. These water brain babies, as I like to call them, are going to be the future of this country, and they're the ones who are going to destroy this country. It's a long game. Everything that you've been speaking of is a long game.
Yeah.
It's not something they're going to take care of in just 1 year. They know that, and now we are onto them, and we know that because the information is out there, Jack. So you're 100% correct. People need to start reading. They need to start doing their research, and that's the one thing that bothers. That's the phrase that bothers people the most. Do your own research. Just because you're not in a lab coat doing experiments doesn't mean that you're researching. If I read everything about the Revolutionary War, I'm doing research. I didn't jump in a time machine and go back into the 1700s and go into the Revolutionary War to do my research. I did the reading. So
Yep.
that's another thing that you have to continue to focus on, Jack, is everything that you have spoken of here today so far in the short amount of time that we've been together, 25 minutes.
Yeah.
You're you've already dropped a world of knowledge on everybody, and I suggest you keep going.
Yeah, he dropped the Hiroshima on LOD, bro. Like,
And
damn.
don't stop.
Okay.
Don't
Yeah.
stop. Oh, we're gonna
See,
keep this
that's
going.
Let's go.
well, that's the thing, man. Like, what people have to understand is like the lockdowns was a learning experience for both sides. Like we learned a
Mhm.
lot. We learned a lot about our fellow man. We learned a lot about the people who used to sit around and talk massive amounts of shit about how they were a rebel and they would never bend to the man. They all bent to the man. Again, I
Yeah.
work frontline. I won't get into too many details about employment because I do have liberals actively trying to hunt me down. But let's just say I'm a tiny cog in the bigger machinery of healthcare. Close enough though to have firsthand access to virologists, immunologists, doctors of all degrees, and I'm a very inquisitive person. So I like to poke and ask questions. When it first happened, I was wearing a mask. I was absolutely social distancing. I was pushing everybody else. Man, I was running around the hospital. I was grabbing as much PPE as I could for my people, making sure everybody had 4 sets of everything we needed from head to toe, so my people could be taken care of. I would see somebody from my crew walking into a gas station within the first couple of months, probably till about mid-February. I would see one guy had worked for me. He'd always say, "Man, I'm not wearing that fucking thing. I'm not putting it on my face. I'm not doing it. I fought for this country to not have to wear that. I'm not doing it." And I said, "I respect you, but you also represent the hospital. So when you walk in here and you still have your official uniform, name badge, and all that stuff on, represent or take that off before you go in." I was on it. Then I started talking to the virologists and the immunologists and the doctors, and I started having conversations with them. By March of 2020, the doctors were telling me, listen, if you are under the age of 55 and you have no pre-existing conditions that could complicate COVID, you have no respiratory infections, you're not obese, you don't have diabetes. They went down the list of if you're under 55 and you don't have these pre-existing conditions, you should be fine. Um, don't be an idiot. Practice proper hand and respiratory hygiene. Cover your coughs with the
Sure.
end of your elbow. Wash your hands often. If you touch doorknobs and such, make sure you're careful with them. Um, Wearing a mask will increase your likelihood of not getting infected, but let's be real, cloth masks are absolute junk. They're going to stop big particles, loogies, etc. They're not going to stop the small particles that a virus floats in. Surgical masks are a little bit better, but they still have too big of holes in the front of them that will allow the particles to escape through. They've got weak sections on either side of it. An N95 is going to protect you from about 95%, but the problem with N95s are you only should wear them for 15-minute intervals. Beyond 15 minutes, you
Hmm.
start recycling your CO2s and it becomes more harm than good. So they laid out all the stuff that is now common knowledge, all the stuff that got me suspended account after account after account after account for trying to tell people in March of 2020. But then it took us what another 4 years, and they're just now finally starting to admit some of the stuff. It was ridiculous.
No, it is. It is. I
Absolutely.
agree. I walked into the store one day when COVID happened. Well, when I just thought it was the flu. I walk in the store and then the guy was like, "Oh yeah, nice mask." I'm like, "What the fuck is he talking about? What are you? He's talking about nice mask." I'm like, "Thank you." You know what I'm saying? Hey, yo, you can't get better than this. I mean, you know what I mean? And then his wife was like,
Let me tell you a little story about how I had COVID. Okay, I was dating this girl that I had known for a couple of years, and her and I had always had a thing for each other. So we decided that we were going to date because we knew that we always had a thing for each other. So we dated. Um, it didn't last long. It was probably a 4 or 5 month romance, but it was a good time. Um, I remember her texting me one day. She's like, "Hey, PJ, which was the father of her daughter, has COVID." Now I knew PJ for a long time, so there was some connection there. So it was like, "Oh wow, that's terrible. I hope he's okay." He was an older guy. He's my age. Might have been a little bit older. Not a big deal. And I was like, "I hope he's okay." And it was probably 2 days later I started feeling symptoms. Never wearing a mask. She wore a mask all the time, and she was inconsolable when she had COVID. And it was to the point where it was irritating, but at the same time, I felt sorry for her. It was like, hey, you know what? I'm sorry. let's get this figured out. What do you need? Um, but I went all through COVID never wearing a mask. I bought one of those gaiters
Hmm.
just to appease people, and I left it around my neck, which absolutely sucked because as it started getting warmer, my neck started getting hotter, and it got to the point where I was like, you know what, I'm not even going to bother with this thing. But I was around a lot of people never wearing a mask. Those people never wore a mask. I never wore a mask. I caught COVID. The worst symptom I had was day one, where I had a fever. I was dizzy. It was like, oh wow, man, I'm really sick, and I lost my sense of taste and smell. That sucked because it was gone for a good 6 weeks,
Yeah.
and I didn't think I was gonna get it back.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
she acted like I gave her an STD. I was like, wait a minute, your ex husband, your ex husband is the one that has COVID, and now all of a sudden you and I have COVID. But you're treating me like I'm the one that gave it to you because I didn't wear a mask. And that was the dangerous thing
Hmm.
that we saw. That was the most dangerous thing that we saw during COVID was the division, the vitriol, the hate that was
Yep.
spewed during COVID. I didn't wear a mask because I knew better. I actually, when my children were born, we had swine flu or bird flu number two, which was during President Obama's term. And I remember talking to my dad. I'm like, Dad, what are we gonna do? I've got newborns. I don't need them getting sick and dying. I was young, but I was 25 at the time when my daughter was born, 26 maybe. Um, I didn't want my daughter getting sick, so I was using hand sanitizer and freaking out. And then I remember talking to my dad, and he was like, "Son, let me tell you about something. In the 1970s, we had this exact flu virus pop up." He goes, "It was nothing. It was a big nothing burger. People freaked out. People got vaccines and they didn't need them, and people were hurt over it." And I was like, "Well, what do I do?" He goes, "Just live your life, take care of your children, keep everything clean. You got nothing to worry about, I promise." And my dad has never steered me wrong. And with this COVID thing, it's going to pop up again 20, 30, 40 years down the road. It's going to pop up again. The best thing that we can do is tell our children, don't worry about it. Yeah, people are going to get sick. People are going to they're going to die. People die of the flu every year. People die of
Right.
gonorrhea every year. And I remember during the height of COVID, I
The drip.
actually did a statistic. What's that?
Uh, the drip.
The trip, dude.
The drip.
I kid you not. I kid you. That's it.
Oh yeah, I saw
Oh
your post.
man.
That's what reminded me of that. In the your
Yeah,
post.
dude. Oh man. But I actually did a statistic online and I got ripped apart for this, but it was factual and it came from the CDC. During the height of COVID was at like 250,000 cases per month, whereas gonorrhea, syphilis, herpes, all that shit was over 500,000 cases per month at the time for each virus. And I brought that up and people freaked the hell out. It's like, what? This is a case that has been going on for decades. Why are you freaking out now that I'm talking about this? Are you a little upset that because, did you get railed raw dog last night? I mean, if you did, I'm not mad at you, but, that's something to think about. If you're sticking I mean, I'm not going to go into that, but,
Yeah, yeah.
it's that's something that we need to focus on and never forget this moment because in 20 years, it's going to come back. They may be trying to push it right now, and people aren't biting on it right now.
COVID or
A
gonorrhea?
lot of
Which one?
It was all of them. It was all of them.
All
It
of them,
was
all
it
of
was
them, all of them.
every STD, every STD. You had gonorrhea, syphilis, what's that? Chlamydia, herpes.
HIV.
AIDS really has kind of died off because people have been careful to their credit,
Mhm.
I would be absolutely heartbroken if I had some sort of STD and it burned when I peed because I love peeing. It gives me the goosebumps. I call it the peegasm.
Yeah.
Yeah, right? You're like, "Oh, thank
Anyway,
God I don't have
and
stones right now." Shit.
I really went off somewhere else, so I
No,
apologize
we're good.
about that. But
Don't.
all I'm saying is that there are other problems in this world that we need to be focused on. When
Right.
COVID comes back up in 20 years, we need to teach our kids, hey, if you weren't like my son, my oldest, well, actually, all three of my kids, they're old enough, they're going to remember. So in 20 years, when it comes back up again, you can go, do you remember? And that is
Yep.
how we're going to continue to save ourselves if we have not fallen as a republic to the one world government, to the common core. That's what we need to focus on.
Yeah. Yep. Agreed.
So protesters, huh?
Well,
Yeah, the
they
pros
uh,
Go ahead.
a huge reason we're seeing the stuff we're seeing now with these protesters in college campuses with the stuff that's going on is to make us forget about the exact stuff we're supposed to be remembering. You were mentioning the swine flu, man. The funny thing about the swine flu in the World Health Organization. So you know how everybody called Trump racist because he was calling it the China flu.
Yep.
Well, historically speaking, we've always named viruses after the region they come from. So him calling it the China flu wasn't that outdated. We've had the Spanish flu, etc. Well, with the swan flu, um, the World Health Organization was trying to be politically correct. So rather than, I think it was the Mexican flu, I think it originated in Mexico. But rather than calling it that, they decided to call it the swan flu. So it wouldn't be xenophobic or racist or whatever. And well, what ended up happening was people in China and I believe India. There's a few countries who went through their entire country and slaughtered every pig they had in the country
hmm
because it was called the swan flu, even though it didn't come from
Mhm.
pigs.
Yeah.
That's why when they switched it to H1N1, that's why they switched it. Little things like that with the World Health Organization and watching Fauci, man, watching him from the beginning of it. And again, I worked the entire first year, no mask, refused to get the vax, refused to anything. And I was in the COVID unit the entire time, working 16 hours a day, right
Yeah.
up. Now, when I'd go into a patient room or patient areas, yes, I had full head to toe PPE, but outside of there, no, I never got it. But I would have these conversations with people and I would realize, like, wait a second, we're seeing one thing here, and make no mistake, in the beginning of COVID, it was horrible. Like it was bad. But what people don't understand, especially when they look at the data on COVID and they say, well, if you look here, this is when the vaccine came out, and look how many less people were dying or being hospitalized. And it's like, sure, but you have to look at it this way too. We did not take into consideration natural immunity at all. It was a myth. We were being called
Facts.
crazy conspiracy theorists if we
Yes.
even mentioned natural immunity. Well, that first wave came through. The first thing it did was it culled the weak, unfortunately, and it was tragic, and I wish it hadn't happened, but we didn't have any alternatives at that time. People who
Right.
were elderly, had pre-existing health conditions, were already deathly ill from other things. That first wave took them out. And
hmm
then what that first wave and the second wave also did was it gave the majority of the population natural immunity. But we
hmm
refused to recognize that. So by the time the vaccine actually rolled out, we had already taken out the weakest amongst us, and we had already naturally inoculated the majority of the rest of us without actually tracking that data and without actually comparing it in a controlled setting to the vaccine data. We have no way of knowing how effective it was. And I just wish people could be open and honest about that. And that's exactly why the force of it was ridiculous. But I feel like every bit of it was a test to see who's going to march in lockstep. And the ones that don't, we need to monitor. Look at the timeline with TikTok.
Mhm.
2000, what, 14, 2015, Vaughn came out. Vaughn was taken off the United States. Everybody loved Vaughn. Then,
hmm
late 2015, right as Trump's running for president, Jack Dorsey from Twitter decides he's going to do away with Vaughn. Well, right at the same time, the communist controlled, CCP controlled TikTok makes its emergence. Starts out in 2016. All through Trump's presidency, you watch people start getting more and more radicalized. You watch it with the more subscribers TikTok gets, the more radical the narrative gets, the more crazy we start seeing things, the
Mhm.
more we start seeing controlled conversations. Twitter was playing their part of it. They were silencing, censoring, suppressing anybody who disagreed with the narrative. And meanwhile, we, myself included, was putting ourselves on camera and documenting our emotions, our feelings, our reactions, everything we were thinking through the entire process. It's scary.
Definitely.
It's scary to think of.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm right there with you. And speaking of natural immunity, ever since I had COVID at the height of COVID in 2020, I have had I haven't had so much as a sniffle. I don't I I I don't get sick as it is, and when I do get sick, it hits me hard because that is a strong virus that actually hit me. But since I had COVID in 2020, which was a mild case, but I work out, I eat healthy, I get outside, I get plenty of sun, I get plenty of exercise. So I was not in the demographic of pre existing conditions. I was not susceptible to being hurt by that virus. But natural immunity, by the hand of God, I am immune to a lot of viruses right now. How long that will last, I don't know. I have no idea. I can't tell you. I can only look forward to the future as to when I get my next cold, when I get the next time I get the flu. I've had the flu maybe 4 times in my entire life, and I'm 42 years old. So that's 4 decades that I've had the flu. Um, I'm not worried about it because when my time comes, my time will come. Whether that's I'm standing up and I've got certain tools that have been allotted to me by the Constitution
Amen.
that I can use to fight against tyranny and invading armies. Or I also have a healthy body that I can fight against viruses. But when my day comes, it's going to be natural. It's going to be. I'm not worried about it. I am not afraid of death.
No, you can't
See,
be
that's
because
what was so crazy too. Good.
yeah, they use death as a tool, as a fear.
They
You know
do.
what I'm saying? You can't be. I yeah, I mean, I thought it was me. I thought it was just me who believed in that. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't. I mean, I'm almost died when I was a baby. I mean, I was told I was almost. I almost died when I was a baby. I've died a couple years ago and stuff. I'm not saying that it's basically the circle of life. That's all I'm saying. And
Yeah.
but that's what I tell my kids. Don't let anybody tell you, put that fear in you, death. You know what I'm saying? Because it's natural. It's gonna come. We don't know when. We don't know
Yep.
how. It's gonna come. That's
Guarantees in
what that.
life. There's two.
Yeah. Well, go
That
ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Well, there's two guarantees in life. You're born and you die.
Yes.
What
Correct.
you do between that is
Yes.
what counts. Okay.
Yep. There you go.
However, you're going to die, that's how you're going to die. That is set in stone. You
Yes.
cannot change it. A piece of cloth over your face is not going to stop what is inevitable for you. Putting on your seatbelt is not going to stop what is
Right.
inevitable for you. I can walk out of my front door right now. My apple tree will fall on my head and kill me. It's
Hmm.
not a very big tree. I mean, it's
Right.
probably 20 feet tall, but in the height of the summer, that mother pus bucket is heavy. But it does not matter.
No.
People need to stop fearing
Yep.
death. And if
See,
you fear death, it's because you have done something wrong in this life. And
Yes.
deep down in your heart of hearts and in your soul, you know that you have a lot to atone for. I don't fear death. There's a lot that I'm going to have to atone for, but I'm
Yeah.
not afraid to atone for it.
Right. Exactly. Either yeah, that and also you've been conditioned to fear it. So, in my opinion on that, to piggyback off what you said, Trigger. So,
Yeah, a lot of people have.
yeah.
see, that's exactly the mindset that makes them. They have to do away with people like us because, just as you said, I don't fear death. I don't want it to happen. I've
Right.
been in some dark places in my life where I did want it to happen. I tried to help it happen. But I grew the fuck up and realized that there's more to life than that dumb shit. And I don't want it to, but I'm not afraid of it. It's coming one
Right.
way or the other. The harder you fight it, the more shocked you're going to be. But that's why people like us are so dangerous. They need people who they can scare. If you're
Yes.
scared, you're compliant. If you're compliant, you'll march in lockstep. If you'll march in lockstep, you'll help their grander scheme. And that's the people they need. They need the people who will do whatever they tell them to do. Get the
Mm.
shot, put a mask on, sit down, shut up, listen to what we say, and everything will be fine. And if you start asking questions, it's like any other know-it-all in the world. If somebody feels that they know it all and you push back on them, they instantly get defensive. And it's the same crap. And we should have known as soon as when COVID happened and they weren't saying exercise, eat right, go out, get some fresh air. The sunlight kills us. When they weren't pushing a healthy lifestyle, but instead pushing stay cooped up in the house, don't go out at all, don't do anything, get drunk if you want to, and just pretend like it doesn't exist. That's
Eat
when
a
I knew something
cheeseburger.
was off.
Eat a
Exactly.
Yeah,
cheeseburger and some fries.
yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
so
Free of
yummy
charge.
fries,
Yeah.
dude. That De
Man,
Blasio commercial still haunts me with him saying, "Oh, you want this yummy cheeseburger? Here's some fries. Just go get this shot. We'll give them to you."
Every
yeah.
day. I made that
Uh,
at home.
Yeah. So, to the protesters, guys, here you go. This is what I
Here we go.
found. Shout out to Libercrat Media. Here you go. It says if their signs told the truth, we still vote for Biden. I'm just camping here. Hamas would kidnap and murder me. No more, Israel is Israelis were brats who want attention. Oh my gosh. I don't know what Zionist what I don't even know what Zionist means, Loud noise. Ah!
The definition of that has been twisted so much that nobody even
Yes.
knows what the definition of it is
So
anymore.
bad.
Yeah. It's
Yep.
the
Now,
same
if you even admit that Israel is on a map, if you say I have a map and it has Israel on it, you're a Zionist. It's
Yep.
like,
Yeah.
no, I'm just simply showing you a map that has it on it.
Yeah.
Yep.
But Gaza is not on that map.
Nope.
Nope, you will not find it. Although a friend of mine was 3 miles from that border, and she could hear the explosions and the fighting in Gaza. As the
Speaking of that,
IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, were kicking the shit out of Gaza, she could hear it.
and we have footage thanks to Trigger and thanks to his friend.
Thanks to Cherie Dennison. She went home. She bravely went home and was able to see the carnage and the wreckage, and it was heart-wrenching, I can tell you that.
It's 14 minutes long, guys, but go ahead and go to Trigger's page and on TikTok and see the whole thing. We're just gonna chop it up here. So yeah, here we go. This is some of it. You want to lead the way, Trig?
Yeah. It looks like we're already at the Nova
Mhm.
Music Festival site where thousands, countless young children were attacked and murdered senselessly. And if you notice, you'll see a lot of posts. All those pictures there, those are the fallen children, and they're in their 20s. But I'm gonna call them children. Those are children that were having a good time. They were celebrating life. They were listening to music, and they died. It looks peaceful, doesn't it? Just wait, it gets worse. This right here, this is actually the gate going into Gaza. They made it to the Gaza border, and that guy told him to turn around.
Really?
Yep, that's the Gaza border right there. It's real.
Wow.
Yeah. And that is more of the Nova Music Festival site where people were senselessly murdered on October 7th. It gets worse. It gets worse. This is nothing.
This is raw footage, guys. Raw
This is
footage.
raw footage. A direct account. The beer forest. I would love to go to the beer forest.
Yeah, right.
Be on the Holy Land and have some beer. I mean, I might have to atone for the beer, but Well, look at these. These are young children in their 20s. Look at that. All they were doing, was having fun, listening to music, dancing,
Yeah.
celebrating life, celebrating coming into adulthood.
That's the reality of very small fraction. What you see here is the people that died, that were murdered.
All right. So where's she going to next? This is still part of
This
Nova Trick.
this is still part of the music festival.
Okay.
Bring them home. Hamas has prisoners. People who are not part of the IDF. They are not soldiers.
This is the
These are
Nova
children.
Festival area.
I'm gonna fast forward real quick. Look at all those man. Look at all those kids, man.
All of them. They're all children in their early 20s. They had a full life ahead of them.
So
Thousands.
are these all the people that are dead that's on the board, or and are missing, or a combination
That
of it all? Sorry.
it's a combination of both. They have been murdered. They have been kidnapped, taken prisoner. They are prisoners of war.
Wow.
And it's like she said, it would take hours to see all of these people. There were so many of them. This right here, this is a fence that separates Gaza from Israel. It's usually farmland where everything is open and people get together and they come together and they live harmoniously.
כן, בשער הצהוב זה הראשי.
So I'm gonna.
מלא.
Look at this house.
כן, כן.
This house was firebombed right here.
מה כתוב על הקירות? שזה נבדק?
כן, נבדק.
כן.
This is for the people who don't believe that
פה
October
נהרגו
7th actually took place, much like the
שוטרים
Holocaust.
וחיילים.
There are
שלוש
Holocaust
אזרחים.
deniers,
לא,
and
פה
there are
היה.
October 7th deniers. This is proof.
בפנייה, בעיכול, זה נכנסו מלא.
בפינה פה.
כן. וזה הבית של החבר שלי, אנחנו עובדים ביחד, רוני.
Fast
הוא
forward
נמצא
real quick.
עם הילד.
Right.
Hold
Oh,
on.
back
Yeah.
up a little
Yeah,
bit.
exactly. I got you, bro.
That's a fallout shelter.
Sirens around here.
Listen to her.
You have to go to the safe area, which is all concrete, so you don't have shrapnel fall on you.
Just let it play.
There's
Just
a
let
lot
it play.
of sirens in this area. We might even hear one.
Listen.
There's a boom.
There was a boom. She's 3 miles from Gaza,
This
where the
idea
war is taking
in
place.
Gaza. We're really close to the border here.
And look at this. You want your heart to hurt? A picture of a family in a house that was firebombed by these terrorists. They wrecked that place.
Yeah,
It's
it-
totally wrecked.
It is.
And it gets worse. It's on my TikTok page. It's a long video. It's 15 minutes. But
Yep.
if people were to go on there and watch it and share it, I'm sure they can share it. It's 15 minutes. Yeah. And a lot of people don't like to watch a 15-minute video, but I think it's absolutely imperative to see that that actually happened. If we had the internet back when Hitler, during the Holocaust, killed all those people, and we were able to go in there and we were to see the proof,
Hmm.
I wonder if people would have a different perspective on what's going on. A lot of people are denying October 7th. A lot of people, and I've challenged so many people who don't live in Israel, who have never been to Israel, who have never seen the problems that the Israeli people have to face on a daily basis. They wake up every day wondering if they're going to be bombed by Gaza. They go to sleep every night wondering if that Iron Dome is going to protect them. The Israeli people live in fear. People in the United States who are protesting, all these water babies at these colleges who have had everything handed to them in their entire life, have no idea what it's like to actually be in a war zone. You hear all these inspirational videos when you're watching an NFL game or an NBA game, and you hear some kid saying like, "Oh yeah, I grew up on the streets of Chicago. I grew up on the streets of Compton, California," and they had to duck bullets. But that's inspirational. For some reason on TV, that's inspirational.
Yeah.
But if you speak to an Israeli who talks about the fact that they had to live in fear about being bombed by Gaza, who is funded by Iran, which is being funded by the United States right now as we speak, while Israel is being
What?
denied aid by the United States. And that's why articles of impeachment against Joe Biden have been levied, because Israel is a ally to the United States, and we should be giving them aid. Yet we're giving all this aid to Ukraine. I don't remember a treaty between the United States and Ukraine being signed that
And
says
and
that we are allies.
and you know what?
Well, no,
That go ahead and sorry, Jack. And this is an excellent point. We're funding both wars, but yet
And
how are
all
we,
sides.
exactly? And why did we pass an anti-Semitism bill? Because if you guys know, if the audience knows, we're sending money to Ukraine, and Ukraine did what? They pinned a medal on a what Nazi, right?
Yep, sure
yep,
did. Sure as
they
shit
did it
did.
in Canada
And,
too.
and
Oh
think
yeah,
about
yeah. Thank
this.
you. Yes, yes. That's what I meant.
Who's
That's what exactly, Jack.
funding Gaza? Who's funding Gaza? Iran.
Yep.
When Obama was president, we gave him $4 billion. Here,
Hmm.
here's a pallet full of cash. Here, do whatever you want to with it.
Yep.
Trump comes into office, shuts everything down with Iran, says, "You're not getting another dime from us because of your state sponsored terrorism."
Yep.
Now we have Biden, who has gone into office, got rid of all of Trump's plans, and has
Yes.
started funding Iran again. Now
Yep.
Iran funds Gaza. Gaza attacks Israel. And
Hmm.
Israel is going, "I've had enough of your crap. We're going to level you." And because
Hmm.
Israel has leveled Gaza, now Biden does not want to fund Israel, which is our ally, to
Yes.
defend themselves.
Yep.
We are funding both sides of both wars right now as we speak.
Hmm.
And people wonder why people like Zelensky and
Yes.
people like Benjamin Netanyahu are saying your sons and daughters are going to fight in this war, because they will.
Yep.
As far as
Because
first thing, because I know some people hear this and they'll try to say, "Well, yeah, we do have an agreement with Ukraine. It's the Budapest Memorandum." Listen, in the Budapest Memorandum, we made an agreement that if they would denuclearize, we would have their back in the case they were attacked unprovoked.
yep,
And furthermore, that agreement also stated that the United States, Russia, any foreign entity would have no sway whatsoever in your Ukraine's politics and their economy and their financial assets. That was the original agreement, and all we have done since we signed the Budapest Memorandum is insert our politicians into their politics. We have taken. I have two buddies who live in Ukraine, and they say, Jack, it's like little America. We used to have our own culture. We used to have our own belief systems. And now when you walk down, it's Starbucks and Walmart and McDonald's. And It's little America. You guys have taken this area over. Some of them like the Putin side of it, some of them like the Ukraine side of it, but none of them like America shoving ourselves on them.
Yep.
So the Budapest Memorandum went out the door when we broke it by forcing our ways on them. In 2014, we used our CIA to run a soft coup on Ukraine. They had they had elected representation that was working with Russia while maintaining their own sovereignty, and the United
Mhm.
States said, "No, no, we need you working with us." So we took the CIA, we ran a soft coup in Ukraine where we unseated their democratically elected officials and we inserted Western friendly officials to start working in our best interest and against Russia. As we were doing that, we were slowly expanding NATO more and more and closer to Russia's border. The only reason Russia and Ukraine is in anything now is because of us. We
Yep.
started that shit because we wanted them. If we can use Ukraine as a front, then us, the UN, NATO, we all have an excuse to go after Russia then. Russia doesn't want to play the stupid woke Olympics. They want nothing to
Yep.
do with it. They want to maintain who they are as a country. So
Yep.
if we can use Ukraine as the front, what we're doing is we're getting all the Ukrainian men of fighting age killed. They're now forcing their elderly men, their women, and everybody else to fight because we've ran through their military aged men. We keep
Hmm.
using them as a front to destabilize Russia while we're and the left always screams about colonialism and how we're a bunch of colonizers. What the fuck you think we're doing in Ukraine right now? We are
Exactly.
actively colonizing Ukraine, and
Yep.
you're cheering it on because somebody told you to throw their flag in your bio. And it's the as far as
Yep.
the Holocaust deniers and stuff goes too, man. This is a book I suggest everybody reads. Ordinary Men. It
Oh,
goes through the police battalion, the 101st Police Battalion in Germany, and it's very well documented, very well written, explaining how they basically went from ordinary men to genocidal maniacs. It's an excellent read. As far as the Gaza situation and Israel goes, for the longest time I thought, okay, I can understand why people in the West Bank and Gaza are upset, but there's a way to go about this. Then October 7th happened, and I got in the mindset of fuck them, blow them off the face of the earth because man, I watched the raw footage of Hamas in Israel. I watched them dragging dead bodies around the back of motorcycles in the backs of jeeps, treating them like it was a trophy buck they had just killed. I
Yep.
listened to the phone calls of them calling their parents and bragging about how many people they've killed with their bare hands. Like, nah.
Yep. I'll pose a question. I'll pose a question. I've asked this of people who have been protesting like these water brain babies on all these college campuses. What has Israel done to Gaza to oppress them to warrant the events of October 7th? What has Israel done to Gaza?
Well, they all have the same pre-programmed responses. They're colonizers. The apartheid, it's an open air prison. They'll all use the same dog whistles they've been trained when really they don't know.
Yeah, nah, absolutely. So then you follow up with this question. Why can't the people of Gaza move to Iran? They're not far from any other Muslim country. You have the Jewish state, you have the Muslim state. So, what is keeping the people of Gaza moving out of Gaza and just saying, you know what, Israel, you can have this land. We're going to go to Iran. We're going to go to Iraq. We're going to go to Afghanistan, Pakistan. The list goes on. We'll move to England. We'll move to America. What is stopping these people from getting out of there? Are they Do they not
Well,
have any money? I don't believe that.
no, all the Hamas leaders are multimillionaires or more. They have money.
Yep.
Usually, it's the religious connection to that region. They again it
Boom.
all ties back to the UN. It all ties back to why people like Robert Mueller thinks we'd be better off if we moved beyond the religious phase of humanity and into the next stage. But yeah,
There it
it's
is.
it's religious beliefs. And the thing is people will focus on, the wall Israel has, but you never hear them talk about the massive wall Egypt has to keep them out either, or why
Oh
they
yeah.
don't want them there. It's because you're a little even. First of all, they voted for Hamas, what, like 80%. voted for Hamas to be their leadership. So it's the majority of Gaza and the West Bank that's agreeing with the stuff that's going on. But even if you weren't, you have a homicidal group of terrorists running your little spot of the earth. They're using you and your children in your hospitals and in your churches and in other places as human shields so they can go out and kill and then hide behind you so they can scream victim when they get fought back on. If you don't want that stuff, how about you throw them out? You do away with it. And listen, they scream it's a genocide. It's the first genocide in human history where the population in Gaza has increased, where they haven't decreased. A genocide means you are slowly and systematically eradicating a group of people. Their population has only grown over years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's going back to what we spoke about in the beginning of this episode.
Mm-hmm.
The white people are being eradicated. Now, I'm only half white. I'm not 100% white. People believe that I'm 100% white. I don't know why. I don't know how I gave off that vibe, but whatever. But
Yeah. My skin is my sin.
it's something. Maybe it's my beard. I don't know, dude.
Yeah,
Because they're like,
yeah.
Native Americans can't grow facial hair. Fuck you. Yes, we can. But
Mhm.
you know, that's a different subject for another day. But
Mhm.
I I don't understand it. I don't think I'll ever understand it because nobody can ever give me a straight answer. You and I and Jack and we can always speculate. We can
Right.
always speculate, but nobody's ever going to give us the answer that we need because they don't have that answer.
Can
Well, their
Um,
actual
go ahead,
say
guys. Go ahead.
their actual answer of why they feel the way they feel about it is they've been programmed and paid to think this way. They don't understand again the slow walk. Okay, let's go back to Mao's China. What we're seeing now in the United States is they're attempting a cultural revolution, a Marxist revolution, just like we've seen in China in the '60s. And it started with their slow walk through the institutions. They slowly took over the school system and they began dropping little droplets of indoctrination on the kids, just kind of giving them a feel for what was going to happen. And then Mao got into power, and then he took every bit of literature out of all the schools. The only thing they were able to read for the most of the time in their schools was Mao's little red book. This was the only literature they gave them. They indoctrinated them. Then they created their Red Guard, which is exactly what we're seeing with these college students now. They took the adolescents, the youths who were young and naive and not experienced in the world. They radicalized them into this oppressor oppressed class. In China, it was landowners versus people who don't own lands. But it's
Mhm.
here, it's black versus white, it's gay versus straight. There's all these different categories you can do. Critical race theory is just Mao's critical class theory for race. It's just the American version of it. And the only purpose of it is to divide us so they can conquer us. You radicalize these groups of people and then you sick them on people. And with the Gaza Israel situation, most of them have no idea what's going on there.
Mhm.
All they know is what some woke ass college professor told them to be upset about. What they don't realize is there's three foundations who are all receiving money from the Open Society, which is ran by George Soros, who is also receiving money from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. It's the same group of people who funnel money into these organizations, who take people who are in their 40s and 50s and camp them outside of these college campuses with the exact same tents, the exact same setups, so they can go out there and rally support and get people involved with this when most of them have no idea what it is other than they know they're supposed to be angry, they know they're supposed to protest, and they know a big revolution is around the corner.
Yeah, but and with Charlie, wait me 1 second. Jack, it says Charlie Winchester says sound is odd, guys. It's probably YouTube, Charlie. It's probably YouTube distorting us. Yeah, yeah. Of course, there's a lot of interference because we're speaking, we're speaking, we're speaking the truth. That's what it's. That's what it is. Yes, she said it sounds like 1969 moon landing. Hey,
oh,
whatever.
are we talking about interstellar celestial beings where the sun is no longer yellow, it's white? I,
Yeah.
I had to hit the head. Sorry, I
No,
apologize.
you're good. But shit. Where? What? Damn, I lost my freaking train of thought. Okay. I'm sorry, Jack. Where were
Sorry.
you going? No, no, it's not your fault. No, no, it's not. It's I just like it was there, and all of a sudden, like I'm like, wait a minute, Jack, and then I'm like, oh shit. Anyway, go ahead, Jack.
I was just saying the majority of these kids have no idea why they're upset. They just know that again, these organizations who are receiving
Mm,
money from the Open Society, George Soros, from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, they're funneling money through to these organizations who are buying them camping gear and they're making all these fancy flyers and they're telling them where to meet up and where to hang out. They're literally paying protesters and paying them damn good too. I'm talking like $5,600 a week to come out and protest.
Whew.
Ridiculous amounts of money to come out and camp out these college sites. I have a buddy who goes to one of the colleges that's going through it, and he was telling me that there's people walking around passing out flyers saying, "Hey, if you show up, we'll give you free camping gear. You'll get your own tent. You'll get your own sleeping bag. You'll get your own pillow. You can wear masks so nobody knows who you are. You'll have to take a couple of pictures with a couple of signs, but other than that, the gear's yours. Just show up, hang out. It's it's a big party." Most of them have no idea what they're doing. They just know they're being told to do it, and they're being told
Mhm.
something big is around the corner. It's
Yeah.
and
dangerous.
yeah, it is. And oh, give me a second. They said, do you guys know exactly how many protesters had got had got arrested nationwide?
Uh,
Or
no.
I mean, there's going from 2,100 to 2,000 to 2,100. Like it's roughly around there in this
That's
campuses
really
here.
not a lot
Wow.
after, what was it, 6 campuses that have done this?
It was
And
Emory,
I
UCLA,
Columbia.
Columbia. What's the
I think
yeah,
that I
it's probably
want to say
6.
Georgetown. I know
Yeah.
there wasn't a lot, but I remember I was in Denver. I was sitting in a hotel room and I was watching uh the process of UCLA, which is what's playing down there in
Mhm.
um the police, the LAPD finally decided, hey, we've had enough of this crap. We're going to put a stop to this. And I watched it live. They tore down all the barricades that they made and they started arresting people. And a lot of people actually, on their own volition, got up and they left. But I remember, looking at that picture of 2 troopers holding that protester. It reminds me of a professor. I cannot remember where she was from. This just happened this week, but she was yelling and screaming at the media as she was being walked away in cuffs.
It's in here.
That
It's in here. It's in this article actually, Trigger. You brought that
okay?
up. You're right. It's
So
in this
you know what I'm
article.
talking about? Yeah,
I know. Gotcha.
it's it was amazing, and what she said made absolutely no sense
Mm.
as to why somebody would be protesting what is going on. And I wish people would see the footage of what is in Israel right now as we speak. Because if they did, they would show up to these protests
Mhm.
and stomp their feet and hold their breath and act like petulant children and camp out protesting war that they know nothing about. And
Yeah.
although the United States is not involved in that, it won't be long until we are.
Well,
Well, what makes it worse is
go ahead, Jack. What makes it worse? What? Go ahead.
I was going to say the pro Gaza protesters. If you listen to them, they're also saying once they're done decolonizing Gaza, they're going to decolonize the United States and Europe and Australia. They've got these big global plans of decolonization across the entire globe. And I hate to tell you guys, like, I'm a pretty peaceful person, but as soon as you start marching down my street, I promise you, you're not going to like the response you get.
Exactly.
Exactly right.
Yep.
Exactly right.
Yep.
That's the problem that these petulant children have no idea about. That's
Mhm.
what I was saying earlier. We get to sit in our homes. We're safe. We're protected. I've got lots of tools in my house that are going to keep my neighborhood protected. And if I can't use those tools, I am the most dangerous weapon that any man can face. But the people of Israel, they don't exactly have that luxury. They
Mm-mm.
might be able to have the guns to protect themselves. They may have safe rooms, of which in that video, They set fire to houses to smoke people out of their safe rooms
Yep.
so that they could murder them, so that they could shoot them, cut their heads off,
Yep.
rape them, and pillage them.
Mhm.
If these petulant children who are at these colleges had clue one as to what the people of Israel have to actually go through every single day, they would not show up to these protests. These protests would not have life.
Yep.
The protests would still happen because they are funded by George Soros,
Mhm.
but it would not be on the scale that we're seeing it today.
Well,
And if
I
you
also
show
Well,
up in my neighborhood,
go
if
ahead.
you show up in my neighborhood threatening me or the people that I live in a neighborhood with, you will be carried out. You will not walk out. And I can guarantee you that. And a lot of people will tell me that I'm violent over that. I'm not violent.
No,
I
just
don't seek
protecting what's yours.
violence. I don't
Yep.
seek violence.
I'm
I will
extremely
defend.
violent if need to be.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. If I'm pushed to that point,
Ooh.
I you will think you're looking at the devil.
Exactly. Yep.
That's
Same here.
that's the dirty little secret about most men our age is we all
Yep.
went through that phase, man. I went through that life where I learned how to be the hardest motherfucker you ever met in your entire goddamn life, and I didn't like him, man. I got scared of him. I wanted to be different, and I did. I changed. I came out of it. I became this loving person who just wants the wife, the white picket fence, the house, the dog. Leave me alone. But
Right.
don't make the mistake of thinking because that dude's sleeping, he's not still in there. Don't
Right.
wake him up. Like let's
Yeah.
figure out a way to handle this stuff peacefully and not get to that point.
That beast
Okay.
is asleep, not dead. There's a difference.
Exactly. Yep.
And the
Exactly.
people, sadly, it's going to come to the point where somebody is going to learn that the hard way.
Yep.
And these petulant
Did you
children,
see the footage of the did you see the footage of the boys who had the Rubbermaid trash cans
Yeah.
turned into shields and they tried
Yep.
to rush the cops? Like
Yeah.
I like my odds
I
if
did
that's what
not.
you're bringing.
Hold on. I think I have it here. I think I have it. Let me go check my email real quick. But her name is a real quick trick. Her name is Nicole. Gosh damn it, had it here. Her name is Nicole something. Forgot. Here we go. Nicole McAfee. She is the
Hmm.
This
chair.
is the professor
That
who was screaming
oh,
as she was being carried away in cuffs.
I think I hold on. We might be talking about the same different person. Was she from? But she who is also the president-elect of the Emory University Senate, left her office and went to the protest because she was growing increasingly concerned that university leaders would call in outside law enforcement
That's
agencies
the
to
one.
break up the encampment. Yeah, that's her name then.
That's the one because she was as she was being carried away in handcuffs. She was yelling at the beginning of this. She was mad at the president of that university for
Yes.
taking money and distributing it to law enforcement instead of distributing it to the kids that were out there acting like petulant children. So she was screaming, she was losing her voice, she looked like a fool. Everything that she said made absolutely no sense, and she looked like a fool. And I really hope that she loses her job.
Hmm.
Listen, man, in the Federalist number 10, I believe it was John Jay or James Adams. I can't remember which one wrote it. But anyways, Federalist 10, they discuss the problem with democracies, the problem with too much democracy, the inherent risks of radical democracies, and factions. And they pose the question like, how do you deal with factions? It's kind of like a fire. You can deprive it of oxygen, but in doing that, you hurt everything around it too. So you can take away people's liberty, or you can just restrict their reach. And at the time of our founding documents, when they were having these conversations, they were thinking factions can't grow large enough to really become a problem. If they could, then you end up getting mob rule, which is the inherent danger of too much democracy. It's why we are a constitutional republic that uses the bare amount of democracy we can get by with. Well, our founders never envisioned the internet. They never envisioned
Yeah,
these idiots being able to reach a million other idiots because a platform like TikTok is going to establish an algorithm that pushes it to the weakest minds amongst us and radicalizes them. That's exactly what we're seeing. And I'm telling you, mob rule is dangerous. It's led to horrible things throughout the history of mankind, let alone just the United States. And it's exactly the way we're marching. And these teachers who are supposed to be leading the way, but instead they're just as brain dead as the people around them, it's not helping anything.
Oh yeah, it started
Yeah.
decades ago. This is not something new. Teachers have been dumbing down students from kindergarten all the way into college for decades
Yep.
because this is actually written in the Rules for Radicals book by Saul Alinsky. If you go back and you read that
Yep.
book, you will see everything that you will read about everything that we are seeing today. This has all been
Yep.
a part of a plan. And I don't know if you guys support Q. If you do, good for you. But
Nope.
you know, that's another thing that when they say it's part of the plan, I find that to be a dangerous thing because part of the plan was also written in Rules for Radicals by Saul Alinsky. So whether it's left or right, there is an extremism that is actually dangerous for the world. It's not just dangerous to America. It's just not dangerous to Israel. It is
Hmm.
dangerous to the entire free thinking world. And how do we stop that?
Well, now you know Hillary Clinton. Uh, she shadowed Saul Alinsky for a while. She wrote her high school dissertation on Saul Alinsky. She went around with him, hung out with him, interviewed him. He offered her a job 3 or 4 times to come work with him, and she turned him down each time. But I can send you a link. I think I still have it saved of her high school paper. I think it was not no, it was her college dissertation she wrote on. Uh, all about Saul Alinsky, all about how intelligent he was, all about how he had the right ideas, the way we needed to push our country. And I tell everybody, read Rules for Radicals. If you want to understand, when you're debating leftists, all you have to do is look at the Rules for Radicals, and you'll see.
Mm-hmm.
For example, humiliation, make fun of somebody. It's the ultimate weakness. If you start, whenever I get in these debates with people, the first thing they start is, "Are you looking at me or are you looking over there? What's wrong with your beard, man? Why do you sound like that?" It's not because they give a damn about my lazy eye, my weird beard, or my strange voice. It's because they
Yep.
know that's the kind of shit that gets under people's skin. It
Yep.
rattles them, and then it's hard to recover from that because as a human being, your natural instinct is to say, "Man, fuck you, dude. I can't help that I have a lazy eye." Like, I don't play that. I
Hmm.
just laugh at it and say, "Yep, goofy as shit." Anyways, now let's take into
Exactly.
consideration let's go ahead and say I'm racist, I'm homophobic, I'm transphobic, I'm cross-eyed, I have a weird beard, I have a strange voice, I probably came from a brother and a sister fucking. Now that we have all that behind us, how does any of that change what I just said? Tell me how
Hmm.
that defeats
Exactly.
anything I just said. And they can't do it.
It's
Lean into it.
Yep.
Yep, but
exactly
it's
right. I can't
it
tell
all
you how
comes
many
from
times
rules
on
for
my
right.
first TikTok account that had 250,000 followers, who used to talk about my hairline. I'm like, okay, cool. There's my hairline. I've had this hairline
Yep,
since I was 22. I've accepted it. It does
yep,
not bother me. But they will do that because it's a distraction tool. It gets them off of the facts and starts becoming a
yep,
personal attack. So, exactly. Somebody wants to talk about your appearance. Hey, great. You know what? Wonderful. Here's my hairline. Hey, whatever. What other
yep.
jokes do you want to throw at me? Cool.
The
Great. That was a
first
good joke. I'm actually going to laugh at it. But here's the facts.
Yep. First mega viral video I had on TikTok. I don't know if you remember Obi Bun and his crew, but
Oh yeah.
they, man, they
Yep.
had tried to come after me hardcore, and whenever I first started on TikTok, I just posted Brazilian Jiu Jitsu videos. I've trained and taught. I have I call it Sweet Dreams Jiu Jitsu, is my school logo, where I teach basically the 2A in combination with Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. And I teach to a lot of the law enforcement agencies around here and stuff. But that was all I had. I didn't really talk a whole bunch. I wasn't political. Like I said, I was more left leaning if I was political. But I was talking about how you shouldn't trust cloth masks, so they decided they were going to cancel me. They came for me hardcore. And one of the first videos I made was like, "Yeah, I'm bald as shit. I have a lazy eye. My beard's weird. I sound like I listed off every negative thing you could possibly say about me. It was like, now, how does that change anything about what I'm saying with cloth mask?" It went crazy viral, and there's no response to it because again, That's just a tactic to them. They know if they do that, and you have to admit, the majority of conservatives fall for it. As soon as
Yeah,
you take an ad hominem attack at one of them, they bite it hook, line, and sinker. They lose their train of thought. They can no longer stay on topic. Now they're defending themselves rather than calling out the opposition.
Yep. Yep.
exactly.
And I get that a lot of stuff. A lot of people have told me, here's the newest attacks. Even on a small account of 5,000 followers, this is the attack that I'm getting, and it's from people who are supposed to be on our side of the aisle. The sun. Apparently, the sun is now white. It's no longer yellow. But we've been led to believe that it's yellow because it's a ball of fire. We see a fire in a fireplace, it glows yellow. So now all of a sudden, the sun is shining white. And I've challenged people, and maybe I went about it the wrong way, but I've challenged people. How is the sun any different? Is this man-made? Who's controlling this? And I actually got attacked by and I actually went off yesterday on a video, and probably not the best way to handle it, but I did it anyway, and I don't care. It's looking up at the sky. I'm not going to say sun. I've got decent eyesight at the age of 42, and I don't want to ruin it. But people are telling me that it's changed, but nobody can tell me why. So I will throw science at people. Like, okay, well, a lot of people say that the sun can go supernova. So if it goes supernova, it's going to glow white because it's white hot. Now, if that were the case, I would not be dealing with 70-degree temperatures right now. I'd be at 110 degrees here in Colorado. I don't know where Josh, I believe you're in Florida. You'd be at 200 degrees if the sun was going supernova and glowing white.
Yeah.
Jack, I don't know where you're at, but
I'm in West Virginia now.
Okay, it gets so your climate's a lot like Colorado. You get snow, you get seasons. Okay, if that were the case, right now it would be 100 degrees right now. If the sun was changing, if the sun was going supernova. A rainstorm is rolling in here in Colorado. There's lightning and thunder going on. But the point that I'm making is the people who are supposed to be on my side of the aisle are telling me that I have blinders on to the world because I'm not staring at the sun. Mm-hmm. And that irritated me because they said that I've got blinders onto the world. I don't have blinders onto the world. I'm paying attention to everything going on. Mm-hmm. But I honestly do not believe that the sun is bullshit. The sun is real. We're 100% on that. And I'm taking some licks. So what I'm getting at is we're going to take licks from both sides of the aisle. It doesn't matter who it is. It doesn't matter what it is. At this point, we just don't care. Hey, you know what? Make fun of my hairline. I got some grays in there. Cool. I got grays in my beard that makes it look patchy. Right on. I don't have perfect teeth. Right on.
Well,
dude, I tell people I look like I had a fucking skunk drag across my face. I don't care. Like, I'm not.
Well,
listen, I have the most beautiful wife I've ever seen in my entire life. I am perfectly happy and content with where I'm at. I have nothing to prove to anybody. I piss off both sides. I call people out from all areas. If you're wrong, you're wrong. If you're wrong because you're misinformed or you're unsure, I'm not going to go hard on you, man. We all go there. Now, I always take the time and I look at every article I cover, every story I talk about. I look at left, right, and center. I go back to as close to the primary sources as I can. I look at full bills. I watch entire videos. I look at historical context. I try my best to be as unbiased as I can, even though I do have a right-leaning bias, and I own that. But I try to look at all angles because I don't want to just be talking shit. So if you're wrong and it's my mistake, it's like, cool, man, I'll talk to you about it. But the ones who jump in and they want to attack appearance or they want to try to insult intelligence or they start the, what's your qualifications? What's your qualifications? Right. Like, man, my qualifications are go fuck yourself. Like, listen, all you have to do is go look at what I'm saying. And if you can point out where I'm wrong, I'm not going
Yes.
to ask what your qualifications are. I'm going to listen to you because I was wrong. But
Yeah.
it doesn't happen.
Well, no,
No, no.
no, it doesn't because I mean, I remember doing a video on Facebook, like, of somebody told me, oh, well, you're spitting misinformation. Okay, well, don't say I'm spitting misinformation if you can provide me with the information that you think you're right about. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean,
Yep.
don't come at me sideways like that.
Yep.
Just say, hey, look,
I
take
told
a
a
look at
guy.
this article, and I'll be like, you know what?
I told a
I
guy
because
today that.
yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say that video I posted today.
Mhm.
There's a guy that jumped in the comment section and said that's bullshit. I said, so let me get this straight. I post a 6-minute video with receipts, with
Mhm.
links, with actual documentation as to what I'm saying. And your response is, nuh-uh, trust me, bro. And that's like, what is that supposed to do? Why do I care about that? Actually bring some facts, have a counter argument, explain why something
Thank you.
is incorrect or it
Yep.
doesn't count.
Yep. Exactly. No, I
Yeah.
told I did yep, I can agree with that because, I mean, let's have a conversation. I mean, I don't I mean, but as soon as like I said again, you come at me sideways, I'm gonna be like, dude, like I'm supposed to trust you, a stranger that I don't even fucking know. I'm gonna trust you. Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So
Show me the
yeah,
proof.
so
Show me the proof,
It's
and I
like
will believe everything that you have to say. If you can't show me the proof, I'm going to believe my
that's
own
what's
two eyes.
yeah, I'm
exactly no, especially when
especially when I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jack. Sorry.
I was going to say, especially if it's a topic that I've spent 3, 4 years diving through. I've looked at it. I've listened to countless amounts of sources from either side. I've went and found and read the original book myself. I've looked and sent the link to several people of exactly what I'm talking about. I've watched the
Mhm.
guy say these things from his own mouth. And you're some strange person who hops in my comment section and just says, "Nuh-uh." Like, come on, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. They'll
And
they'll they'll give you an opposition, but nothing to back it up.
thank you. Yep,
Back
exactly.
it up, please. I
Soon as
am
you push on them a
welcome. I
little
am
bit,
open.
yep.
This is
Yeah, I
a
love
play.
being wrong, man.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
because how can you learn anything if you're never wrong? You'll never learn anything.
thank you. Yep.
Exactly.
Teach me,
If you
teach
can
me.
prove
I
I'm
want to
wrong,
know.
I will absolutely. And then I'll correct myself, and then I'll call myself out, and I'll tell everybody, hey, which has only happened one time so far, knock on wood,
Mhm.
on TikTok. The one guy who came across the border and said, "Oh, you're going to know who I am."
Right.
I thought
Yep.
that was the terrorist, and I was wrong. It wasn't. I looked into it further, and it wasn't. And I issued a retraction and said, I've never had to do this before, but I've always said if I was wrong with something, I would absolutely do it. Completely owned it. I was wrong. I jumped the gun. It was a different person who looked like him. But
Mhm.
that's the thing is, I have no problem saying I'm wrong because I'm fucking human. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Let's learn together. Whereas the other
Exactly.
side can never be
Mhm.
wrong.
But also, but there's a caveat to that. Just because he was not the person that everybody said that he was does not mean that he's not on that level.
Right.
Exactly.
That dude's
Yep.
on the level and is going to do some destruction to this country. And whether or not it's the same person that we were told that he was, that is still somebody to keep an eye on, to look out for, and to not let your guard down when it comes to him.
Nope.
I agree.
Yep. Well, here, guys, we have real quick, speed it up. We have a U.S. officer, police officer, appears to spit on Palestine's flag at UNC. That's when as a matter of fact, the protesters put a Palestinian flag and and basically took the American flag down. So,
Okay.
No
So
good.
yeah,
what did he
as
do wrong?
exactly
Nothing.
What
nothing.
did he do wrong? He's
Exactly.
in
By
America,
way
right?
of
This is
Yes.
an American police officer.
Yep.
Okay. What's his background? Did he serve in the U.S. military? Was he a Marine? Was he an Army soldier? Was he a Navy SEAL? Was he an Air Force forward scout? Was this a man who had boots on the ground during the height of this conflict that we had from 2003 up until 2000 and what was it, 2021 to 2022,
23.
when we pulled out 23.
22, yeah.
Okay, so when we pulled out of Afghanistan finally and ended this conflict, which I will always call a conflict because there was no declaration of war. This is a conflict. There was never a war. So, did he serve in the U.S. military? And if he did,
Well,
how many brothers and sisters did he lose? And because of that, what did he do so wrong? Because he was on the soil of America defending. He took an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States as a police officer. But did he take that oath as a soldier of the United States, whether it be the Marines, the Navy, the Army, or the Air Force? You take the oath. It's the same oath across the board. Did he take that oath? Look into the background of that officer. What
Mhm.
did he do wrong now?
Right. And
I'm gonna be honest with you, man. Go ahead.
this and this is the analogy that I'm gonna say to you guys out there. I'm sorry to you Americans out to us Americans out there. Our sure, I'm not taking away from what Israel and I'm not taking away from what's going on
Mhm.
out over there overseas, but our house is burning here, and we're paying attention to what's across the fucking seas. Like
Yeah,
Yep.
our house is fucking burning, and you want to? Oh yeah. Come really? Like, but
100%. I will stand for our allies.
this is our
Israel,
house,
Israel is our ally. Okay.
right?
Yes, this is our house. And we are going to defend our house.
Correct.
500 politicians do
Mhm.
not decide what is best for this country.
Yep.
300 million patriotic Americans decide what's best for this country.
Yep.
And if I have to stand for Israel, I'll stand for Israel.
Correct.
I'm not going
Exactly.
to
Yeah.
stand for Ukraine. I don't know Ukraine being an ally for America. I
No.
will not stand for Russia. I will not stand for any other country.
Yes.
If I was called to fight for
In all
Israel,
honesty,
I'll go. I'll go. I'll
in all
fight for
honesty,
Israel.
What's up,
in
Jack?
my opinion, the best thing we can do is, first of all, listen. In March of the year, what was it, 2021, 2022, when Russia first went into Ukraine, by March of that year,
Mhm.
Zelensky and Putin had met in Poland. They had a conversation. They discussed the peace terms. They were ready to settle it. They were ready to go back to what the terms were before, get
Yeah,
NATO off the border. Ukraine's not going to join NATO. They
yeah,
had it figured out. Then Joe Biden, Boris Johnson, the UN got involved and told them not to do that, that we
yeah.
would fight it for them. The
Right.
best thing we could do in Ukraine is to leave them the hell alone. Get out of
Yep.
there, allow them to figure out their own problems, stop using them as cannon fodder. And honestly, with the way we're handling the situation in Israel too, it might be better if the United States left their nose out of it and let them do their thing. They can
Yep.
handle it. They've got the military capabilities, they've got the intelligence capabilities. What they need us to do is stop playing global politics where we're making
Yes.
them feel bad or using the
Yep.
world stage to shame them for doing what they have to do. We need to leave them the
Hmm.
hell alone and turn our attention back here to where, like you said, it's on fire right here.
Right.
But the leftists, the college students, the young people, they're not seeing that it's on fire here because again, they've been programmed for the last 2 decades that this is exactly what's supposed to be happening, man. It's one Earth, it's one globe, and we're one people, and
No.
Yep.
And
it's
you know what?
ridiculous.
It is. And you know what, guys? It's not as these protesters slash rioters, because I'm gonna call them for what they are, rioters. Um uh it is not an attack on free speech.
Right.
Let me remind you, because you know what, real quick,
No,
because here on the you can go look it up, since you college students are like so damn smart. You college leftists out there who are so freaking smart, you can look it up, college.gov, constitution.congress.gov. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech or the press or the right of the people peacefully to assemble and to
Peacefully.
petition the government for a redress of grievances
And that's
peacefully.
just it. And that, although the people who are sitting in the DC gulag right now that were arrested for
Mhm.
trespassing, they weren't arrested for an insurrection on January 6th, 2021. They were arrested for
Right.
trespassing. What they did, we all understand it. We all wanted to be there. We all wanted to do it. But what they did was not an insurrection.
Right.
We
No.
they created chaos. They created havoc, and they interrupted a congressional proceeding. If I were to
Mhm.
walk on into the halls of Congress and start protesting how I feel about everything that they're doing, I can be arrested because I am interrupting a government proceeding. Okay. Now, if I have permission to be there
Mhm.
and I'm allowed to go to the lectern, not the podium, there's a difference. But if I'm allowed to go to the lectern in the halls of Congress, I can speak my mind and I can say whatever I want to, short of threatening any politician. I if I were to threaten Joe Blow down the street, I can still be arrested for that. Okay, that's not freedom of speech. Critiquing and criticizing everything that the government is doing, that's freedom of speech. So that that- that's one thing that a lot of people have forgotten is if we're creating chaos, if we're creating havoc, if we're creating problems and we're interrupting proceedings, yeah, we can get in trouble for that. But if we can all go up to Congress and make our voices heard, as long as we're not threatening them,
Mhm.
our First Amendment is protected. And
Facts.
that's what a lot of people are forgetting. And we've
Facts.
got to focus on that. We've got to get back to that. Now, we can talk about all the things that the protesters of January 6th are sitting in jail for. It's all misdemeanors. They should be out right now, but they're not.
Right.
And that's a different subject for a whole nother day. Hopefully we can get them out soon because none of them deserve to be in that jail.
Nope.
But, you know, there was chaos, there was havoc, it was a shit show. Okay.
Yep.
But our First Amendment is protected. The separation of church and state. The government is not allowed to go into the church and regulate, but the church can
Mhm.
go into the government and regulate. That's the
Right.
Constitution right there. The
Mhm.
Constitution limits government, not the people. But
Yes,
on
that's
college
where a lot of
campuses,
people's confused.
but on college
That's where a lot of people
campuses,
get.
no, go ahead, Jack. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say that's where a lot of people get confused when it comes to the First Amendment. The first example I like to give is you'll hear politicians like Kathy Hochul go around saying the freedom of speech is not unlimited. You can't yell fire in a crowded theater. That's an absolute bold-faced lie. You absolutely can yell fire
Mhm.
in a crowded theater, namely if there's a fire in a crowded theater.
Sure.
Yes.
What you're not allowed to do is intentionally incite chaos. You're not allowed to threaten people. You're not allowed to intentionally incite chaos. So if I go into a crowded theater and I yell fire with the sole intent of making a massive stampede that gets people hurt, I can absolutely be charged in that situation. But to say
Mhm.
you can never yell fire in a crowded theater is a lie. You have the First Amendment right to do it. You're just also going to face the repercussions of it if people get hurt. Um,
Huh?
Exactly.
as far as separation of church and state, that was one of the main things that pissed me off through COVID. First off, that saying is found nowhere within our founding documents. That was a letter that Thomas Jefferson wrote to the Danbury Baptist Association. It was
Thank
mentioned
you.
one time, and he was
Yes, sir.
he was referencing Roger Williams, who said the garden of church must be protected from the wilderness of
Yes.
the garden of church must be protected from the wilderness of society or something to that extent. When Thomas Jefferson wrote that letter, what it was is the Danbury Baptists were afraid the government was going to come in and try to tell them how they could or couldn't worship. So
Mm.
Thomas Jefferson wrote the letter explaining to them not to worry. Our First Amendment created a separation, a wall between church and state that means the government cannot impose their will on the church, not the
Mhm.
inverse. When these people go around screaming that religion has no place in government, bullshit. That's democracy. Listen, if
Right.
you have somebody who is a Bible thumping Christian and they believe 100% in pro-life, and they're anti this and they're pro that, and they run on that platform and they get the majority of the votes, that means the majority of your society wants to go in that direction. That's
Hmm.
democracy. What they can't do is they can't get in there and say, all right, I'm now the governor of BFE, so you all have to come to church every Sunday morning, hit your knees, and praise God. You can't do that. You can't
Right.
force people to practice a religion. You
Right.
can't stop them. There can't be a state enforced religion. But religious people can absolutely be in government and run off of their religious morals. If they get the majority of the votes, that's the way it goes. What we're seeing with
Exactly.
these things, man, freedom of speech, it's like, yes, we have a constitutional right to freedom of speech. However, your right cannot impede others' rights. So
Right.
when you're out and you're practicing your freedom of speech, but what you're actually doing is going across the busy highway and stopping traffic, you are impeding on their Fifth Amendment right to travel freely amongst the states. You cannot do that.
Yep.
You can go get the proper licenses and get the right paperwork to protest in a certain designated area, and you can scream and yell whatever kind of weird shit you want to. What you can't do is impede other people from going about their day.
Yep.
Yep. And now
Absolutely.
speaking of free speech, Biden actually just I promise one last one, guys. But thank you for coming and thank you for showing up, audience. So here we go. Protect our free speech.
Any minute now.
Look at
There it is.
I wanted to.
you know what? Not all, see, you know what? I'm a well, real quick and I real quick. This dude puts stuttering people people with speech impediment gives them a bad fucking name. I'm sorry, I stutter. You guys know that. Whatever. You gave me a bad name, and you know what? You can tell when he's lying too is when he does that shit. Look, listen, guys, listen,
Or
audience.
I'm not joking, folks.
What's going on
It's not hyperbole.
on our college campuses here. We've all seen the images, and they put to the test two fundamental American principles. Excuse me.
Look at liar.
The first is the right to free speech and for people to peacefully assemble and make their voices heard. The second is the rule of law. Both must be upheld. We are not an authoritarian nation where we silence people or squash dissent. The American people are heard. In fact, peaceful protest is in the best tradition of how Americans respond to consequential issues. But neither are we a lawless country. We're a civil society,
Bullshit.
and order must prevail. Throughout our history, we've often faced moments like this because we are a
Yeah. Anyway, I can't listen to any more of this dipshit. But speaking of that, this is what Jack found here. It last week it just worked like because I was like, okay, trying to figure out where this show is heading. But anyway, look at this. Bam, money. What? What? The censorship industrial complex, how top Biden White House officials coerce big tech to censor Americans' true information and critics of the Biden administration. Bam.
Yep. Yeah,
Wow.
their belief in free speech ends when you start criticizing the regime. Just like every other authoritarian regime in history, you're allowed to say what you want to as long as we agree with it. It's complete horseshit.
Yeah.
And listen, I want to point out the fact that that dude did not have a stutter. He did not have a speech impediment until he got into office, started his slide down the cognitive decline slide. And then all of a sudden they started saying, no, he's always had a speech impediment. I've watched countless hours of this dude talk. I've watched him talk when he was saying we couldn't just pull straight out of Afghanistan, or they would take right back over to be chaos. I've watched him when he was talking about his kids were going to grow up in a racial jungle. I've watched him from 20, 30, 40 years ago. He did not have a speech impediment. He did not have any kind of stutter until very
Mhm.
recently.
Right. See,
Yep.
and then that's it. And of this, what Jack? This has like 98 pages, and you can find this
98
at
pages.
Republicans. Actually, I'm sorry, it's judiciary how dot house dot gov files, and it talks about committee on the on the judiciary and the select subcommittee on the weaponization of the federal government, and it's May 1st of
Yeah, but it's
2024.
it's 98 pages that outline how the federal government leaned hard on private companies like Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, etc., and essentially told them you're either going to remove this content that we want you to, or we're not going to deal with you. Well, when we stop dealing with you, that means you will be shut down shortly thereafter. It's the
Right.
reason again Jack Dorsey was playing ball. It was their ability to circumvent our First Amendment rights, so they could say, hey, technically it's the same way with listen, the way they with the Smith Modernization Act of 2012, the way they get by it is all these news companies and all of them do, and I can pull the documents and show you the receipts. Fox, ABC, MSNBC, CNN, all these big news organizations that you see, essentially you can get a subscription plan for government made propaganda. Now it used to be the government would make propaganda, but they were not allowed to disseminate it on the American people. Then
Mm.
after the Smith Modernization Act happened, and what they said was, man, it's a new time, the internet exists, we're not going to be able to stop people from seeing this, so we might as well let people use it. That was Barack Obama's justification for it. Well, when they did that, they made it so anybody can access the government made propaganda now, but the government cannot release it on the American people themselves. The government can't turn it on us.
Mhm.
However, all these news companies, Fox, ABC, MSNBC, CNN, etc., well, they're all seething with ex-federal agents. Every time somebody leaves the FBI, they leave the CIA, they leave the DEA, they go and they work at one of these news organizations. So by now, the majority of your mainstream news is feds. It's ex-feds. They have a
Mhm.
subscription plan to where they now the government automatically sends them any propaganda they produce. Then, if the news agency decides to share that on the American people, the news agency doesn't have to tell us they're sharing it to us. Neither does the government, because the government didn't share it directly to us. They used a middleman to get it to us. It's the exact same stuff they did with their censorship little campaign. They found their middleman, the big tech companies. They
Mhm.
leaned on them. They had them censor us for them, and then they said, "Oh no, we're once removed. We're not technically doing anything wrong." It's a complete and total abuse and bastardization of our founding documents, and it pisses me off.
Yeah. No, shit, man. Ain't nothing you said I disagree so far with, you know. I mean, that's the truth, man. Wow. Yeah, and yeah, I don't know if you remember that video of shoot, of what's his name? Mike Johnson, and I was gonna play that video, but we're actually heading to the end. So yeah, and but anyway, man, we got to do this again, bro, because I mean, you're just dropping like freaking knowledge like crazy. So yeah,
Yeah,
man.
yeah, I appreciate you guys having me, man.
Yep. All right. Let's go ahead and end this broadcast. Thank you guys for showing up. But we can't end this without a happy endings deal. So here we go. All right, this goes out to our new mod, Miss Charlie here, because she just sent me this thing through TikTok, and this is funny. Here we go. Here we go.
To repeat that. What did you just say? Oh, I'm sorry. You're gonna have to repeat that. What did you just say?
I said to put my phone in your prison pocket.
Prison
Prison
pocket.
pocket? You want me to put your phone in my prison pocket?
Yeah. What's wrong with that?
What do you mean you in my prison pocket? What do you think that means?
Is a place where you keep things safe, like your back pocket.
Do you,
What's funny? What's funny about that?
what kind of things do you put in your prison pocket?
I put my lip gloss. Primarily I use my prison pocket to put my phone. Stop laughing.
You
Why
what?
are you laughing at me?
You primarily keep your phone in your prison pocket.
I don't get it. You use your prison pocket to keep things safe.
I really think there's a huge disconnect on what that word means and what you think it means. What's the biggest thing that you've put in your prison pocket?
Biggest thing I put in my prison pocket besides my phone.
Yes, what's the biggest thing?
My Jeanette put the Stanley in my prison pocket.
Damn,
Your
Gina.
Why are
best
you
friend,
laughing at me?
your best friend put a Stanley in your prison pocket,
Yeah, when we were
and
in
it went all the
apartment.
way in.
No, just in. Why are you laughing, babe?
I can't. I don't think prison pocket means what you think it does. We're gonna have to do a little bit of homework. You're gonna have to. I need you to look it up because
I've been using this for a long time. I've been saying
You've been saying this to people, like actual human beings.
Yeah,
You've told them to put things in their prison pocket or in your prison pocket.
Patients, is it not? It's not what I think it is. It's not your back pocket.
It kind of.
Babe, seriously.
You need to look up what it is. You guys.
Seriously though.
Or somebody tell her, because I can't.
Babe.
I'm sorry.
Clap them cheeks.
She's a good one.
Oh.
She's a good one. That's a keeper.
Yeah. All right. Yo, Jack, you want to plug in your socials?
Just this time to stand everywhere. It's time to stand 86 on TikTok. It's time to stand X on X, and that's about it. That's about all I do. Jack Belcher on Facebook.
As you guys can know, do like, comment, share, and subscribe to this channel. Trick, where can people find you at, sir?
I'm really not on X anymore. I deleted the app and I can't figure out how to get back into my account. So you can just find me on Facebook. You can find me on Instagram, the Walking Trigger Warning. You can find me on YouTube, the Walking Trigger Warning, TikTok, Forever the Trigger. That's about it. That's about it.
Yeah, guys, you guys know where to find me. I'm trying to be everywhere, but yeah. Anyway, whatever. Yeah, I just try to be everywhere, but I'm mostly on TikTok. You know, TikTok and YouTube. So
For now,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
It's not long
Spotify.
now, but we'll be there for a little bit. Spotify,
Yeah.
Spotify definitely.
You actually have a Spotify account too, right, Trick?
Yeah, it's still going. This week I'm going to start the Constitution, so
Okay. Awesome.
I really believe people need to understand it, not reread it, not rewrite it, reread it and understand it. It's black and white. There's only one interpretation to it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And hey, Jack, do you have a podcast, sir, by any chance?
I don't
You don't?
yet.
Oh, okay.
I've been asked to start one a few times. Haven't got around to it.
All right. Cool beans, man. All right, guys. Well, you know what? You don't have to leave, but we gotta go. I enjoyed you. I enjoyed you, Jack. So you know, you're welcome to come back again. This is not a one-time deal. So hey man, come back. We
appreciate you guys.
We appreciate you too. All right, give me 1 second, and we rolling with the outro.